So there have been quite a few villains in Doctor Who that possess unimaginable power, the kind of enemies that make the Doctor genuinely unsure if they can survive their encounters with them. You've got Sutekh, the Black Guardian, Fenric, Michael Gray, but the one I'm focusing on today is a villain that really fascinates me. The Toymaker. The Toymaker first appeared in Doctor Who a while ago and returned in the 2023 special, The Giggle, the final adventure of the 14th Doctor. Sort of. Yeah. Now, The Giggle is quite an eventful episode, and there's quite a lot crammed into those 60 juicy, succulent minutes. But I'm mainly here to focus on the Toymaker, and why he was, frankly, a perfectly executed villain. Almost. So let's begin with the Toymaker's origins. He first appeared in The Celestial Toymaker, a serial from 1966, then going on to appear in about 1 million pieces of expanded media, the canonicity of which entirely depends on how often you go outside. The Toymaker is portrayed as a being of godlike power, bending reality to his will in a way that would put the average Twitter user to shame. His whole shtick is trapping people in his domain and forcing them to play a typically simple, childish game. However, if they lose, which they usually would, the Toymaker would sentence them to an eternity of balls trek videos or something. Eventually, the Doctor encountered the Toymaker and played his games. The final game they played involved a voice-activated board game, and the Doctor defeats the Toymaker by impersonating his voice, causing him to make a move that loses him the game, and thus, due to a simple skill issue, the Toymaker is defeated. So that's the main history of the Toymaker. But I'm here to focus on his portrayal in The Giggle, because he really is one of the most outstanding villains we've seen in Doctor Who in a long while, and his inclusion will likely have a big lasting impact on the show in the future. So the Toymaker has, of course, changed a lot in between appearances. He's now played by Neil Patrick Harris, because Michael Gough, the original actor who played the Toymaker, is 107. And dead. But his appearance has also changed. Back in the 60s, the Toymaker wore an appropriated Chinese costume, despite being played by a white man. He was also called the Celestial Toymaker, celestial being a sort of old-fashioned derogatory term for Chinese people. If I had to guess, I'd say it was being used as a sort of pun. I mean, attitudes were different back then, but yeah, the Toymaker's appearance clearly needed a bit of updating. The Toymaker also says the N-word in the original story, and yeah, big yikes. To compensate for this problematic history of the Toymaker, David the Russell decided to intentionally lean into this aspect, making the Toymaker's racism part of his character. Yeah, have fun cancelling him now, space Twitter. A significant part of the Toymaker's character is that he now puts on a bunch of accents, and makes a bunch of random, silly exclamations vaguely based on the language he's impersonating. This could be a precaution so the Doctor doesn't impersonate him again, because the Toymaker is clearly still salty about that. But I think it's also because the Toymaker sees humanity and all our cultures and languages as a game, something he can switch around and impersonate for fun. Not because he's inherently racist, because he has no real concept of good or bad. And as we saw in the 13th Doctor era, racism is bad. Sometimes. Yeah. The only dialogue from the Toymaker that could be interpreted as intentional malicious racism is,
"You must be used to sunnier climes."
But I interpret that more as a comment that's mainly rooted in ignorance, or hearing other people from that time period say similar things. The Toymaker isn't native to Earth. All our cultures and attitudes are new to him, and they fascinate him, so he adopts them. His ignorance and malice also tie in really well with the themes of the episode, as we see people act insensitively in a similar way due to the Giggle. Speaking of which, the Giggle is an arpeggiated laugh from Stooky Bill, one of the Toymaker's magic dolls, who was used by John Logie Baird as the first television broadcast. However, magical space shenanigans mean the Giggle is brandished into the brain of everyone who has ever looked at a screen. We actually have this in real life, it's called Baby Shark.
Imagine if he could talk. Imagine what he would say.
I got quite the shock. Me too.
The Giggle turns everyone mad, making them all think they're right, all the time. I would make a joke about Twitter, but that's literally what this is parodying. Also, Kate Stewart becomes a Tory.
Day in the life of a true Brexit geezer. Wake up and meet the wife Susan.
The Toymaker did this to make every opinion supreme, showing once again how he's infatuated with humanity, seeing all of the arguments and vitriol and cancel culture as a game. The Doctor travels back to 1925 to find where Stooky Bill came from, and finds the Toymaker's shop. My god, that smile is creepy. It's here that we really get to see what the Toymaker can do, seeing what happened to Logie Baird's assistant, and god, that doll is creepy. The imagery the Toymaker creates with the endless corridors, turning people into puppets, and carnivorous dolls, is all just so good. I just wish we got more of it. Then there's this scene. I really like this scene. The Toymaker catches Donna up on what happened to all the companions the Doctor had after her. You can see how much it hurts the Doctor, because he never looks back. but now he's being forced to go through all these tragic ends again, in front of Donna. He tries justifying their fates, mentioning how they lived on in some form, but the Toymaker shuts him down.
Well, that's all right then.
Then the Toymaker brings up the flux, and we saw in Wild Blue Yonder how much the Doctor really doesn't want to think about that. The Toymaker has been following the Doctor for a while and clearly knows what buttons to push. Then he starts listing some of the things he's been up to since entering the universe. This line in particular really stands out to me.
I gambled with God and made him a jack-in-the-box.
Was there a God in the Doctor Who universe? I mean, God was also mentioned in The Impossible Planet, so maybe he did exist. Not anymore, I guess. The Toymaker also provides an explanation for any plot holes that have ever existed in the show. This doesn't fix the absolute mess that is the Doctor Who canon by any means. It just allows you to stick a plaster over any plot hole or contradiction. The Toymaker also defeated the Master and sealed him inside his gold tooth forever. I mean, we've seen the Doctor fight gods and all-powerful beings before, but the Toymaker was easily able to win against the Doctor's intellectual equal. And this is one of the great things about the Toymaker in this episode. He's consistently portrayed as an unbelievably powerful being. It also happens later on during the Spice Up Your Life scene. When the unit soldiers have turned into balls, the Doctor just says,
They're dead. I'm sorry.
Normally the Doctor would give others hope that maybe they could be saved. Maybe there's a chance. But he knows there's no hope for these soldiers. The Toymaker is hyped up to no end as possibly the most powerful enemy the Doctor has ever faced. And this is all paid off with two incredibly basic and lackluster games. And this is where my only real problem lies with the Toymaker. There's all this build-up with creepy tricks and stories about how powerful he is, all for it to be capped off with a card game and catch. I just feel like there's so much more that could have been done. The Toymaker himself mentioned all of the games humanity plays, even referencing Tetris. But all we get to conclude the battle between the Doctor and the Toymaker is a game of catch. It's not even like the two Doctors win by working together. One of them just gets lucky and the Toymaker doesn't catch the ball. I feel like this is mainly a result of the runtime of this episode. There was so much going on in the Giggle, it was impossible to cram all this content into 60 minutes. I just think it would have worked a lot better if the plot of the Giggle happened over all three specials. I mean, the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder are great episodes on their own, but they could have easily slotted into Series 14, Season 1, Season 40, where. So that's the Toymaker. Easily one of my favourite villains in Doctor Who, unfortunately just short of perfection, likely due to time constraints. But there may be hope. As in the audio commentary for the Giggle, Davis the Russell said this.
The Toymaker said his legions are coming, and they are, possibly also involving pantheons of previous godlike characters. There have been gods before in Doctor Who.
So this likely means that we will be getting a lot of episodes in the future that have the whole sort of cool fever dream thing that the Toymaker brought. I doubt it'll be to the same extent as what we saw in the Giggle, but it's still really cool and a good excuse for Russell to get really creative and weird with his writing. And my god, I just need the Toymaker to return. He was so good. Like, no matter what, you can't deny Neil Patrick Harris was so good in the role. So yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on the Toymaker. I hope you enjoyed this routine info dumping session. Subscribe if you want to see more. And yeah, see ya.